I think of Connie, the first thing I think of is her hair and her colorful clothes. It's almost impossible not to. They were such a part of who she was, a part of whom she wanted to show to the world. They were loud and proud and beautiful. They were fun, just as Connie was fun. And for a declaration from Connie that life was not to be taken too seriously around her. The second thing I think of was her house. I'm sure that many people here visited Connie in her house at least once, and if you didn't, you missed out. It was glorious. Connie filled her house from top to bottom, from front to back, and in most of the yard with seasonal decorations. There were oodles of Santas and snowmen at Christmas, bright colors every spring, and butterflies and birds everywhere. Here and there, on trees and bushes. It was always a joy to visit with Connie at her house. Not just for the enjoyable conversation that was to follow, although I loved talking to her, and we talked about lots of different things in our conversations, but because of the ever-changing decorations that were certain to leave me smiling as I left. These are the first two things I think of when it comes to Connie, not because the memory is so strong of them, and because they're so unique to who Connie was. But it's not because I think they're definitional. Connie was much more than the lady with the bright hair and the bright clothes and the cool house. Much, much more. I suppose what exactly is definitional for Connie might vary depending on your relationship with her. As far as I could tell, Connie was a loyal friend who took her friendship seriously and treasured them deeply. I won't even try to mention all of her friends here, for fear that I might miss someone, but they were a true sense of joy for her. She valued them immensely. She also valued the love of her family. Connie loved her sons, Scott and Steve, and their respective children deeply. Whenever one of them was coming for a visit, her eyes would light up in excitement. But she told me afterwards, the excitement was still there. It's weren't as often as she would hope, but every single time one happened, they were a blessing to her. Even from far away, they were, I believe, her favorite part of life. I will not soon forget one of my last visits with Connie. It was after she had taken her turn for the worst in January, but before she truly was out of it. Scott had been visiting with her and had returned home, and she wanted to send greetings to him and to Steve. She couldn't type anymore, even on the iPad, on the tablet that she had, and so she dictated to me. And I used her tablet to send messages of love to her sons. She wanted them to know that even from her bedside, even in very poor health, she was thinking of them and loved them. For so she did. Connie was a woman who loved to rest in and bring joy to others. I have already mentioned her outfits and decorations, and they brought her joy. But they were designed for something else. They were meant to bring joy to others, especially all the decorations outside. They were meant to make others smile as they passed, to remind them of the joyful parts of life, to bring joy to those who simply walked or drove by her house. And that is a task they fulfilled beautifully. Connie didn't like to be sad. She didn't like when she wasn't feeling at her most joyful. At times in our visits, the pressures of life would get to her, especially in the last couple of years of her life, and she would break down momentarily for a couple of crying, and every single time she would apologize to me, as if she had to apologize for life getting her down with all the pain she grappled with every single day. Frank and I am amazed it didn't happen more often because the pain was immense, the struggle was real. But she would apologize, but she didn't like crying, even in front of me. And I was never really sure if it was because she had a desire to be seen as strong, or because she didn't just like being sad. But it was clear from this and other things that Connie would much rather look on the joyful moments of life. And she strove to find those joyful moments everywhere she could. And she was generous. We have a ceramic bird in our house, kept safely away from 2-year-old hands. It was a gift to my oldest, from Connie. Serenity was there with me as I was visiting with her one day, and she was admiring this bird in the ways that only 5-year-olds can do. It was sort of embarrassing to me how she was admiring the bird in the ways only 5-year-olds can do. And Connie, seeing this, simply gifted it to her. And no protestations from me about the lack of a need for such a gift could change her mind. Serenity loved that bird, and by golly, she was going to have it. My daughter was very proud of that bird, as well as she should be, for it came from the generosity of a wonderful lady. All of these are helpful in defining who Connie was, but there is one simple truth that is how I would define her. For me, Connie Ackerman made me want to be better. Let me say what I mean. Connie always had a positive spirit, seeking to find the good in everybody and hoping to find joy wherever she could. And she simply expected that I would do my job in ways that would be helpful to her. And she wasn't shy in calling me if I hadn't been to her house for a while and asking for a visit. Sometimes not hanging up until the visit was scheduled on the calendar. She made her expectations of me rather clear. A little communion, a little prayer, and a song. Every visit. Those are the 3 things. But she was also quick to make me know what I meant them. In short, I wanted to be the pastor Connie thought I could be, and often thought I was. I wanted to be better always, in order to live up to the expectations Connie had for me as her minister. Because how could you visit Connie and not want to live up to what she thought you could be? I believe that's one of Connie's most enduring gifts to us. She saw people as they were, loved them as they were, and hoped for them to use their gifts to the best of their ability. And somehow, through her personality, through her own love, through the ways the Spirit spoke through her, she made them want to live up to those gifts too. Now, it's easy for a pastor, when talking about someone like this, to speak of them in glowing terms that don't always fit reality. So allow me to acknowledge that this view of Connie as the person drawing out the best of people might just be me. And Connie was, like any of us, not perfect. But that is how I experienced her, and I really do think it was true to her person. That inspiring each one of us to be our best is a large part of who Connie was. And while I don't know that she would have made this connection, in so doing, she was similar to Paul. In his first letter to the church at Corinth, which we read this morning, Paul talks about there being many members of the body of Christ, each with their own job, each job important to the work of the kingdom, and each job needing to be fulfilled not by someone down the street, but by each one of the members of Christ. Connie had her role to play in that body, and she did it well. By writing cards for this congregation, birthday cards, anniversary cards, lots of kinds of cards. By sharing her love and joy and colorfulness, just like Rabbit in the book we read during Wiggle time. And And as much as anything else, Connie played the role she had in the body of Christ by being like Paul, of calling each one of us to see our own places in the body of Christ and to live into them. To fulfill our callings, our roles, our gifts for the good of the kingdom, and hope that through them, through us, the world might be a better, more colorful, more loving place. Connie Ackerman made me want to be better, to more fully live into my calling as pastor and as a Christian. She made me want to love harder, to share deeper, and to live into who God called me to be as a part of the body of Christ. And I believe that she did that for more than just me. That was her gift to us. And it's how I also propose we honor her. I propose that we honor Connie by striving to keep working toward being the people that Connie imagined we all could be. That we seek harder after our calls as members of the body of Christ. I propose that we strive to be people who bring the good news of grace and love into the world, who hope to make the world just a little more joyful by our presence, by what we say and do, by how we embody the body of Christ. In my PR for this Sunday, I encourage everyone to wear their brightest clothes because, and I quote, that's what Connie would have wanted. And I might have exaggerated a little bit. I don't actually think Connie would have cared what iota, what anybody here wore on this Sunday. But what she would have wanted is for us to be the ones who keep on doing what she did. Keep striving to be people of joy and love, who show that joy and love to the world and make the world a better place. That's what Connie would have wanted. And thankfully, that's what God imagines we might do too. I told you that the first thing I think of when I remember Connie Ackerman is her outfits and her house, but I didn't consider those to be definitional of her. I'm not sure I'm right. The fact is, both of them, at least for me, were ways that Connie brought joy into the world, brought joy to me. And that joy is definitional for her. And so, as we remember her this day and in the days to come, how can we do less but to strive to live into that joy ourselves, to strive to live into our roles as the body